Okay, so if you know me, you know I'm out on the road every week talking to executives, talking to leaders, talking to business owners about process mapping and why it's so critically important to be able to see things so that you can fix things. And we've been getting really incredible results. And I get great feedback when I'm out on the road as well, and a lot of questions. And I want to answer some of those right now. Just recently, I had somebody say, well, Derek, what do we need process maps for? We have checklists. Okay, fine. I can understand there's a value in checklists. There's the checklist manifesto that's out there. There's lots of different things. I need to understand or explain to you the difference between a checklist and a process map. A checklist makes an assumption. It automatically assumes that the person doing the list knows the order of operations, or the order of operations doesn't matter. If it's a grocery list, I can figure it out. I might have to wander around the store a little bit. I might have to go to produce and then have to go over and get paper towels and then back to produce. It's possible sometimes you forget things on a checklist and you move them around. That's what a checklist does. A checklist assumes an expert that knows what they're doing is the one in control, the one reading it. A process map, on the other hand, tells you the order of operations. So if I need an expert to handle a checklist, I need an average or below average person to handle a process map. I can go way farther down in the cost of people if I have a process map that tells them succinctly the order of operations. Now, other people say to me, well, Derek, we have great SOPs. Well, so does Boeing. Most SOPs are not worth the paper they are written on. And there's some very distinct reasons for that. By the way, Boeing is one of the best in the world at SOPs. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So why do I dislike SOPs? Because SOPs, I'm going to skip a couple slides here. What is it spelled backwards, by the way? SOP, POS. We all know what they really are. They're garbage. They don't work at all. They have no purpose and no meaning. Instead, you ever go to a website and have the terms of service pop up and you have to read the whole thing and then check the box? And you never do that? That's an SOP. That is exactly what happens inside your business. Nobody wants to look at it because it is not good. It is crap. And it's crap because it has been designed and developed multiple floors away from where reality actually happens. I just had somebody the other day telling me about their great SOPs. It was a larger corporation. And he said, look, all of our department heads have written standard operating procedures and what we expect from the people, doing the work. And I said, well, how many so the department heads do the work? No. They have directors underneath them. I see. And then do the directors do the work? No. They have managers underneath. I see. And then the managers do the work? No. They have supervisors and leads underneath them. Oh, the leads do the work? No. The people do the work that report to the leads, that report to the managers, that report to the directors, that report up to me. And you think that accurately reflects the work that's being done? You're from 5 floors away from where the work is being done. You think you actually know what happens 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 200 plus days. You have no clue what's happening. So when you write an SOP at that level, at a managerial level, and you send it down to the front line, what do they do with it? Well, usually they ignore it. But sometimes they do actually read it, and then they just make fun of you for not having a clue about how anything works. This is why SOPs don't work. What you actually need instead is a map that maps out the process, clearly defines the steps as they go, and then capture the best practices of the work. Now, best practices aren't written by management. They're discovered in the field. If I stand behind 3 programmers, I can see how they're sort of working and understand that. And then I can bring them together and say, hey, what do you do differently? How do you guys do that? Well, I do it this way. Oh, why do you do it that way? It's a little faster. Oh, maybe we all should try that. Why do we do it this way? Well, it's because of this. Well, is there a better way to do it? Just really getting them critically thinking about improving it, and then constantly replacing best practices with new best practices. When the best practice is in place, that is what we do. We learn from that. We use that to capture data. But then we find through experimental purposes other ways to do it. And then we test those out too. And we find out if they're more efficient, if they create a smoother, clearer path. And if they do, then we replace the best practice with the new best practice. Here's the other thing about best practices, or SOPs. If you're going to call them SOPs, make sure for certain it has the name of the employee that discovered that best practice, not some manager that wrote it out, the person at the front line that actually knows how work's done. We call this the 50-foot rule. Never, ever, ever trust an SOP unless it is written by a person that works consistently within 50 feet of where that work happens every single day. If they're not standing there every day seeing it, how in the world do they know? You don't know how work gets done in your business. And that's a problem because you're trying to dictate to them the actions that they need to take to do the work that you don't understand. This is why it's critically important to have a combination of an action results map that shows the actions, what people do, and the results that you want. Results are dictated by management. Actions are determined by the people actually doing the work through the form of best practice. If you don't have a system that does that, this is why nobody looks at it. This is why you get inconsistent results and variation day after day after day. It's why you lay awake at night having to look over things and schedule things and do status updates and meetings and all of this crap because you don't trust the process. And you're the one that supposedly is dictating the process. So is it their fault that it didn't work, or is it yours?